we have the great Indian journalist, writer, publisher, documentary filmmaker and teacher, Mr. Paranjoy Guha Thakurta. He will deliver the 36th AKG Memorial Lecture on the topic Crony, Capitalism and Fall of Indian Economy and Democracy.
On behalf of Jan Samskriti, I respectfully invite Shri Paranjoy Guha Thakurta to deliver the 36th AKG Memorial Lecture.
Thank you, Jan Samskriti. It's my honor and my privilege to be here. And I'm extremely happy that so many of you have come. And I feel particularly humbled when I look at the long list of very, very eminent personalities who've delivered the AKG Memorial Lecture. And I look back, AKG passed away in March 1977. That was the year the emergency. Indira Gandhi lost the election. That was the month. And that was a period, the 21 months actually, 19 months, 21 months preceding that, saw one of the darkest phases of India and Indian democracy. And I was just a student then. I was a student, and a lot of people asked me how I became a journalist, and I said the two people who should get maximum credit for that is Mrs. Indira Gandhi and Sanjay Gandhi. That's why I became a journalist. Many of my friends and colleagues are here, and it's my honor really that AKG, whose friends and acquaintances cut across political lines. Though he was first with the Indian National Congress, then with the Undivided Communist Party, and then with the Communist Party of India Marxists. I mean, he was one of the early members of parliament. He served 5 consecutive terms as a member of the Lok Sabha. And when I look back at so many eminent people, including the singer T.M. Krishna, not just Sitaram Yechuri and Prakash Garad, professors Patnaik, Prabhat Patnaik, Utsa Patnaik, other professors like Professor Madhura, Swaminathan, C.P. Chandrasekhar, and then we have former chief ministers like Achuthanandan, V.S. Achuthanandan, ministers like Thomas Isaac, and important political personalities like Somnath Chatterjee, B.T. Ranadeve, EMS, and of course, so many public figures and intellectuals, N. Ram, Nikhil Chakravarti, U.R. Ananthamurthy, Rajni Kothari, Dr. Ashok Mitra, Dr. Panikar, Kuldeep Nair, and the list is really long. So I'm humbled and I'm truly privileged that I'm here today. I have been asked to speak for 1 hour. So that's a long time, which is why I'm sitting. But I'll try and highlight some aspects of what is happening in India today, which I think is very important to the subject that we have in. I'm going to divide the topic into a few parts. I'm going to first talk in very general terms about the subject itself. Crony capitalism, what does it mean, what it does not mean? Have we moved beyond crony capitalism to oligarchy? I would argue that we have. And what it means for the Indian economy and India's democracy. I'm going to speak quickly because I have a lot of ground to cover. But this part, which is a very, very few general statements, will be more, in broad terms and theoretical terms, and a few facts. After that, I'm going to devote maximum amount of time. I'm going to devote at least half an hour, perhaps longer, to that one person who's on everybody's lips these days. He's none other than Shri Gautam Adani. I had kept my mouth shut for 2.5 years. Today I'm speaking. I've been speaking at several places, and it's important for me not only to tell you what Shri Gautam Adani symbolizes and epitomizes. I have some personal anecdotes which I wish to share before an audience like this. And it's very simple. I mean, I say I'm going to only state facts. You are welcome to arrive at your own opinion. But I'm going to give you several facts and many facts, and then you are welcome to take a call. I mean, for instance, a person like Shri Rajat Sharma, who asked Gautam Adani at an interview, what is the secret of your success? And he said the same word 3 times. Mehnat, mehnat, mehnat. Hard work, hard work, hard work. There are others who have a different point of view. And in case you didn't know, Mr. Rajat Sharma's company, Mr. Adani had invested in it when it began. Others will say, no, actually he epitomizes crony capitalism, oligarchy in India. So there are different people with different points of view. So I'm going to give all those different points of view, and you can arrive at your own conclusion. Why do I wish to share some personal details? It is because I'm the only journalist who has been named in the Hindenburg Research Report, which came out on the 24th of January. It's a long report, 32,000 words. I went through it. There were some media organizations that have been named, but I found to my surprise, I was the only person named. There were several others whose articles had been cited. There were citations. So I'm going to talk about that, and I also need to explain to you why I'm the only citizen of India, out of 140 crore Indians, why I'm the only citizen of India against whom Shri Gautam Adani's lawyers engaged by various corporate entities, and there are several hundreds of those corporate entities, they have instituted 6 cases of defamation against me that are currently pending. मैं अकेला भारतवर्ष का नागरिक हूँ, मेरा खिलाफ 6 मानहानि का मुकदमा इस वक्त चल रहे हैं. There are 2 gag orders against me from 2 courts in Ahmedabad. Nevertheless, I'm stating facts to you because I think they're important to mention these facts. So I'll come back to these points a little later, but let's try and understand what is crony capitalism. In most Indian languages, there is no simple definition. ये क्रोनी पूंजीवाद क्या है? ये क्रोनी कौन है? भाई है, भतीजा है, दोस्त है, मित्र है, business associate. So this word crony is interpreted differently. But if you just go by the dictionary definition of crony capitalism, you'll say that it is an economic system in which friends, family members of government officials, elected representatives, political leaders, they provide unfair advantages to particular business people, business leaders you might call them, and these are unfair advantages. The playing field is not level, the playing field is uneven. And this could be in getting contracts, in getting orders, in getting what we call sweetheart deals. Deals that you have with your sweetheart. And loans that you get under very special considerations. And at the end of that is political funding. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. But if these people, the nexus between big business houses and politics is there, who is left out? The citizen, the ordinary citizen. So these people gain, the business persons and the politicians and the government officials gain, and the ordinary people of this country, they suffer. Interestingly, it's no longer the ordinary people of India. I will tell you why the ordinary person of Bangladesh and the ordinary person of Sri Lanka and the ordinary person of Australia are also very unhappy with what is going on. I'll tell you more about that. the nexus between business and politics is not new, either in India or anywhere in the world. Let's be very clear about that. The father of the nation, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, when he was assassinated on the 30th of January 1948, he was at the home that belongs to Ghanshyam Das Birla. Fact. You should read what Gandhiji has written about the nexus between business and politics. It's very, very interesting. The Indian National Congress, even before 1947, had several big business people as treasurers and important office bearers. I'll just name two, Kasturbhai Lalbhai and Jamnalal Bajaj. They were treasurers of the Indian National Congress. The Bombay Plan, which was a plan of big industrialists of India in 1944, they all talked about how the business and government could do to work together. You remember Nehruji's industry minister, T.T. Krishnamachari. He was a very prominent industrialist. And remember, after the Haridas Mundra scandal, he was sacrificed. Jawaharlal Nehru asked TTK to step down. This was a controversy that was started because Pandit Nehru's own son-in-law, Firoz Gandhi, raised it in Parliament. And it's interesting that we are seeing those parallels. What was the accusation? That the money that belongs to the Life Insurance Corporation of India was being given to a particular stockbroker from Kolkata. Look at the parallels. Once again, the LIC is being told, you are investing money that belongs to the people of this country in instruments of the Adani Group. Do you know, recently, for the first time in the history of the Life Insurance Corporation, it issued a statement, a public statement. The LIC has never done it, to say, people are very concerned, but we have only our exposure to the Adani Group is minimal, negligible. It has never happened before. So we are seeing things which have never happened before. When the Tatas, they've got back Air India. When they set up Air India, they were said, you manufacture heavy vehicles. The Birlas manufactured cars. The Birlas never got into steel. There's a long history and it's been very well documented. So, though you had a Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, the entire system would be gamed. And there was what was different from the private and the public sector? The private sector, and this became a big issue when Swaraj Paul went to town on this, the families and the promoters of these conglomerates, the families would only have 8%, 12% of the shares. The rest of the money came from the government, from the people of this country, from government-owned financial institutions and nationalized banks. So what was really public? What was really private about the private sector when it was run with public money? Similarly, you could argue the reverse. What was public about the public sector when it was run like the personal jagirdaris, the fiefdoms of some netas and some babus? So all these roles got reversed. And then we had Dhirubhai Ambani. Phenomenal rise. And even today, until Mr. Gautam Adani overtook him, Mr. Mukesh Ambani was the richest man in India. And his empire is there everywhere. Now, I am here going to argue something to you. That Mr. Gautam Adani is different from the Tatas, he is different from the Birlas, and different from the Ambanis. And I'm going to tell you how. In few lines, these industrial houses or business houses or conglomerates, as you call it, their rise happened over a period of time. Sometimes decades. Nobody knew who Gautam Adani was 20 years ago. Who knew him 30 years ago? Nobody. He was just one more trader in Mumbai's Jhaveri Bazaar, trading in diamonds. His family had a business of plastics. They were making cling films, among other things. So nobody knew who Mr. Gautam Adani was 20, 25 years ago. And then he becomes the second richest man in second richest man in the world, the third richest man in the world, the richest man in Asia. This kind of spectacular growth has never happened in India's corporate history. Let me add one more point. The sudden and precipitous fall in the prices of his shares after the Hindenburg research report came out on the 24th of January was also unprecedented. It's never happened before. You've seen other groups, the shares go up, the shares go down, something happens or the other. Even in the case of Mr. Adani, there have been ups and downs. But never has there been such a dramatic fall. If you look at the prices of his shares, it's come up a little bit. But between the 24th of January till today, on an average, most of his company shares, the market prices are half. In certain instances, the prices had come down to 75, 80%, and they have recovered. So this kind of a sudden fall in the market prices of these shares is unprecedented. I'm going to come back to the details a little later. But you look at the big picture. The big picture is, you could argue that in capitalism is the same as crony capitalism. But I would draw a difference between crony capitalism and oligarchy. Crony capitalism is where the government prepares the ground, tailors the rules, there is regulatory capture, different bodies of the state, they act in favor of one or a few business conglomerates. In an oligarchy, there is no difference between the government or the state and the business person. They are the same. This is the difference. It may be a subtle difference, but an important difference all the same. Let me quickly point out to you some things that have happened in the recent past. It's almost 9 years since Shri Narendra Modi has been the Prime Minister of India, and there have been several occasions where he's had to backtrack, where he's had to, even when he does not acknowledge it, he's actually, I would say, has had setbacks. The first was the Land Acquisition Act. Soon after he came to power, Bhumi Adhikaran ka jo kanun tha, on the Republic Day of 2015, when Barack Obama was our chief guest, that famous suit of his, 10 lakh rupees only, monogrammed. And then he was criticized, suit, boot, sarkar. So he auctioned it. The suit worth 10 lakhs was bought again by diamond merchants of Gujarat for 4.3 crores. After that, there were several setbacks. Today, the government does not talk about notebandi, demonetization. It was one of the most drastic economic actions of this country, and the poor, the underprivileged sections, women, senior citizens, children, daily wagers, farmers, small shopkeepers, traders, they suffered the most. Today, they don't talk about it. Why? Then came, of course, Citizenship Amendment Act and the NRC, and then finally, the farm laws, where Modi ji, for the first time, he used the word Shama. But he's always very, very smart and clever. क्यों क्षमा मांगा? क्योंकि हमारा किसान भाइयों बंधु, उन्होंने ठीक तरह से हमने नहीं उनको समझाया कि ये जो कानून है उनके फायदा कैसा होगा. Remember, they burned effigies of the two richest men in India, and the farm laws had to be taken back. I'm giving you this background because it is very, very important to what we are talking today. And more than Baba Ramdev of Patanjali, whose company is not doing particularly well, his group, Vedanta group, headed by Shri Anil Agarwal, also not doing very well. But what has happened today actually is unprecedented. Let's go back a little bit in time, just a little bit in time. 2002, riots, Gujarat. Okay. even well-known industrialists who were part of the Confederation of Indian Industry, they said this is not good for business. It is bad for business, they said. And then there was a parallel organization that was set up, and among the people who were there, the leaders of that organization were Shri Gautam Adani. And there were several others, Karsanbhai Patel, the Mehtas of Torrent Group, Zydus Cadila, the Shangvis of Sun Pharma, etc., etc. These names will come back. And that, from there began the vibrant Gujarat summits, where they would say, we've got huge investment offers, and finally, after some time, you'll find that the actual investments was a small fraction of what was promised in the form of MOUs or Memoranda of Understanding. But what we saw was really, after that, something that had never happened before. In the months of March, April, May, in particular, Mr. Modi was yet to become the Prime Minister of India, but he traveled this whole country in an aircraft that was owned by the Adani Group. I mean, there's a very famous picture you can see when he's coming from Ahmedabad after the Lok Sabha election results have been announced in May 2004, and he's waving to the crowd, and you can see the logo, Adani. It's very, very well known. Now, let me quickly tell you how big the Adani Group is. And you may or may not know this, and it's a long list, but I'll quickly go through this list because it's very important for you to understand, because I believe that though the Birlas, though the Tatas, though the Ambanis had a presence in several sectors of the Indian economy, no one conglomerate has its presence, and it's not just a presence, control and dominant position in so many segments of India's economy. Never. We start with diamonds and, where he started. Once upon a time, the Adani Group was the biggest aggregator of cut and polished diamonds. And some of those diamonds studded in gold jewelry. He was the biggest, one of his family, that group. After that, he gave it up. And it's now, he passed it over to his older brother, Vinod Adani. His daughter, Krupa, is married to the son, Suraj, of Jatin Mehta. And he's a very big diamond trader. And two of his companies, Winsome Diamonds and Forever Precious Jewelry, are among the biggest. They are non-performing assets that they have taken money from the banks and not repaid it. Now we know where Nirav Modi is. He's in jail in the United Kingdom. You know where my classmate Vijay Mallya is. He's in London. Mr. Mehul Choksi, he's in Antigua. Recently, the CBI says they're going to challenge the decision of the Interpol to remove him from that red corner notice. But where is Mr. Jatin Mehta? Very good question. There are several cases going on in several courts of law, and you can write a small book about him. Maybe I will. But let's go back in time. As Mr. Gautam Adani himself has said several times, I'm thankful to the Congress governments in Gujarat, led by, among others, Chimanbhai Patel. I'm thankful to Shri Rajiv Gandhi. I'm thankful to Narasimha Rao's government because they liberalized the rules, and that's where I am at present. And he often points out that when he got land in Mundra, it was a Congress government in power in Gujarat at that particular point of time. But that special economic zone, SEZ, Vishesh Arthik Kshetra, is the biggest in the country. Where's my colleague Ravi? Ravi, the area of Mundra is about 1/4 of Delhi?
It's 15,800 hectares.
Oh my God, 15,800 acres.
136 square kilometers.
There you go. 136 square kilometers. Take it, it's like half of Delhi, or certainly 1/4 of Delhi. It is the biggest special economic zone in India. It is half of Vadodara. I stand corrected, please. My colleague is better informed than I am. I said 1/4 of Delhi, huh? Half of Vadodara, 1/4 of Delhi. In terms of just geographical area. It is the biggest port in India in terms of container traffic. Containerized traffic. It is the second biggest seaport in India after JNPT, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust in Nhava near Mumbai. So it is the second biggest port if you take all kinds of traffic, and the biggest port if you look at containerized traffic. Now, they used to say about China has a string of pearls. If you look at the map of the world, from the Horn of Africa to the South China Sea, they have ports everywhere, including Colombo. It's like a string of pearls. I dare say Mr. Adani has a string of jewels. Look at the west coast, look at the east coast of India. Let me give you the list. Mundra, Dahej, Tuna, Hazira, all in Gujarat. Dighi, Maharashtra. Marmugao, Goa. Vizhnam, Kerala. Katupalli, Ennore, Tamil Nadu. Krishnapatnam, Gangavaram, both Andhra Pradesh. Dhamra, Orissa. And there is a proposal to have a port in Bengal, Tajpur, which we don't know its fate. Now, these are the ports, seaports only in India. He has a seaport in Australia, a place called Abbott Point, now called the North Queensland Export Terminal. He is the operator of Israel's second biggest port, Haifa. He operates a terminal in Colombo Port. He tried to set up a port in Myanmar, but he couldn't get the international financial institutions to agree to give him money because there's a military dictatorship in Myanmar. And this is just the seaports. Let's look at airports. Hawaii Adda, Jaipur, Rajasthan, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, Guwahati, Assam, Mangalore in Karnataka, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, Mumbai, and now also Navi Mumbai, but we don't know whether New Mumbai, when it will come up, if it will come up. But the story behind how he got Mumbai Airport is a case in study. The story of how he has got all these, the rights to operate these ports is a big story. Rafi and we've written an article running into several thousand words, which will tell you this story. You'll get the whole story. You wait for our book, it's going to come out soon. Now wait. This is ports and airports. Let's move on. Multimodal logistical parks for transportation of automobiles, inland cargo vessels, 6 of them he has, 7 railway rakes, storage, infrastructure storage facilities in different parts of the country. Most importantly, 21 of them he has. Agricultural logistics. After the Food Corporation of India, the biggest provider of services to bulk store wheat and rice is the Adani Group. Now, as of now, the government hasn't succeeded in privatizing Food Corporation of India, but this is a fact, what I'm giving you. Now, there are several such facilities in different parts of the country. I'm going to talk about some of them in slightly more detail, but let's move a little quickly ahead because I don't want to bore you very much. It is a large part of its profits, the major profit center of the flagship company, which is Adani Enterprises, is because it is the biggest importer of coal to India. Number one. All the public sector companies, they all source their coal to India thanks to the Adani Group, the Adani conglomerate. And these include coal that he gets from mines that the Adani Group itself operates from Indonesia and Australia. Australia is a very, very interesting story. It was originally 10 years ago supposed to be the world's biggest greenfield coal mining project. It is now down to 1/6 of its originally proposed plan. There have been environmental activists who have said that this will damage the Great Barrier Reef. There are the aboriginals who are saying that you are not giving us a fair deal. But it's not just a coal mine, you have a railroad and you have a port. But the point is, he has begun mining from that. Though it might be 1/6 or even less, 1/7 of what was originally envisaged, the coal is coming from there. Now, this is imports of coal. विदेश से जब हम कोयला आयात करते हैं, he is the biggest miner of coal after the public sector Coal India Limited. And it has various subsidiaries, and they are not called miners, they are not called owners of those coal mines, they are called MDOs. They are called Mine Developer and Operator. He is the biggest of them. He has 9 coal mines. He doesn't own those mines. Chhattisgarh government could, Rajasthan government could, different state governments have owned that land or on lease, but he operates those mines. So after Coal in India, he's the second largest miner of coal. He also, in various projects, and we are not sure whether he'll be able to succeed, iron ore, alumina, copper. I know one project has already been cancelled, a grand project to have coal. From coal you make plastics, coal to PVC. You gasify coal. This was a Mundra project, and they've already said that, we have put this project on hold. Now, it's very interesting that you go back in time. Iron ore. You've heard of the Bellari brothers. He was named. Adani was named in Justice Santosh Hegde's report on illegal coal, illegal iron ore mining in Karnataka. I mean, it's not the first time he's been in the news for the wrong reasons. In the Ketan Parekh scam, he was named. And he was, the SEBI, that was a different SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. Today we have a different SEBI. But they took action against his companies. But let's stick to this whole business of coal. After the public sector, National Thermal Power Corporation, NTPC, the biggest coal-based generator of electricity is the Adani Group. It has, across the country, some projects may not start, like the one, Chhindwara in Madhya Pradesh, where Kamal Nath's son is the Member of Parliament. But I want to just briefly here add one small episode. Bangladesh, Godda. Nowhere in the world have you ever had a project like this, where the coal comes from Australia or Indonesia. It is taken by ships to Orissa in a port which is operated by Adani, in rigs that goes to Jharkhand, Godda in Jharkhand, and then you export that coal, 100% of it, to Bangladesh. Now you go back into the history, you'll see how that land was acquired. You know the violence that was unleashed on Adivasis of Godda in Jharkhand. You know the number of cases that were filed. By the way, the Member of Parliament from Godda is a well-known person. His name is Nishikant Dubey. He is very active in the Lok Sabha in heckling Rahul Gandhi and Mahua Moitra, but that's another story. Mahua Moitra has alleged that his educational qualifications are forged or false. That's another story. There are many side stories which easily divert us. But about Bangladesh, let me tell you two things. The former top official of the Bangladesh Power Development Board, he went on record and was quoted by the Washington Post as saying, Sheikh Hasina cannot say no to the Indian Prime Minister's friend. You can't get any more clearer than that. Ravi Nair, independent journalist, he's there. He and another colleague of ours, he went into great detail into the power purchase agreement. It was leaked to us for the first time. He went in and studied, and what did he find? That the power purchase agreement was such that Bangladesh was going to pay 3 times the amount that they should be paying for electricity. They're paying 100 rupees where they should be paying 33 rupees. So there is a big hue and cry within Bangladesh, and there is some negotiations going on. Not very long ago, the foreign secretary went to Dhaka, and there is some negotiations are happening, and we'll have to wait and watch and see what happens. But Mr. Adani wants to tell the world he is not only in big coal. मैं तो जलवायु परिवर्तन में विश्वास करता हूँ. I believe in climate change. So, he's the biggest provider of solar energy in India and providing equipment for generating solar power. And he's one of the biggest players in wind energy. And it's truly amazing. He is the biggest private sector provider of gas. Gas you use for cooking in your cities. Compressed natural gas which you use to fill up vehicles. The biggest is the public sector organization, Indraprastha Gas. But the Adani Group has city gas distribution rights across India. That list is, almost the whole of India. Gujarat, Haryana, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Maharashtra, Jharkhand, Assam, etc. Look at the control on energy that this person has, wind power, etc. He is in defense, in a major way. Mr. Narendra Modi was the first Prime Minister of India who visited Israel in his official capacity. And soon thereafter, he struck a deal with an Israeli company, and they make what are called UAVs, also called drones, unmanned aerial vehicles. These are defense-grade equipment. And he's also into making other small arms. He has also data centers. Now, he has more than 300 real estate projects across the country. The most controversial of which is the one to develop Dharavi in Mumbai. Dharavi is sometimes called Asia's biggest slum. Asia ka sabse bada jhuggi jhopri ka colony. And if it comes through, it will be the biggest real estate project in Mumbai, and Mumbai has the most expensive real estate in the whole of country. And if you look at it in terms of purchasing power parity, it's one of the highest in the world. Let's see what happens. He trades everything. Sugarcane, dal, very little he's not in. Most importantly, you use oil, right? To make your parathas and your pakoras. Who is the biggest supplier of edible oils in India? Who runs the Fortune brand? It is Shri Adani, with a company called Wilmar. They have a joint venture, Adani Wilmar. Wilmar is one of Asia's biggest agribusiness conglomerates. It's headquartered in Malaysia. Singapore. Okay, it's based in Malaysia, but it's headquartered in Singapore. Ravi's always got his facts better than me. Thank you, Ravi. More than that, apples. You like apples, don't you? Are you aware who's the biggest supplier of apples? Fresh pick, imported, Himachal, Jammu and Kashmir. It's the one and only Adani ji. Fortune brand is about 1/5 of the market share. Apples, I don't know how much it has. I've already talked to you about grain. Then comes cement. That was a very, very controversial purchase. Overnight, through his older brother, first he says he didn't say he's not my brother, but he said he has he does not have a managerial position. And now he has acknowledged that it was through companies in tax havens that they acquired control over companies, thanks to which they acquired a Swiss multinational giant called Holcim, and virtually overnight became the second biggest producer of cement. There are many stories. If you want to know, you can know about why the truckers of Himachal Pradesh are very happy with the Hindenburg research report, because they were agitating for a higher price, and Mr. Adani said, I'm going to close down the plants. And the Congress party had one position, and then suddenly he acceded to their demands, so they're very happy. So the truckers of Himachal Pradesh are very happy with Hindenburg. Now, who is Hindenburg? Nobody knew about Hindenburg. People think, अरे तुम इनको जरूर मदद किया होगा, तुमको मालूम है ये हिंडनबर्ग कौन है? तो मैंने बोला, हाँ, I knew, I had heard the name Hindenburg. I was told he was the Chancellor of Germany, and after him came Adolf Hitler. Oh, I also knew that he was, after him, Hindenburg, was a Zeppelin was named, a hot air balloon using hydrogen. And that Zeppelin was supposed to, if I'm not mistaken, in the late 30s, it was supposed to cross the Atlantic Ocean from America to Europe. And it went up in flames. People died, the crew died. From what I know, 35 people died. And then I found out that here was a small company in New York. Bacche hain, people in their 40s and 30s, 7 or 8 people called Hindenburg Research, and they were running this company out of New York, and they called themselves activist short sellers. And the name came, he said that the Zeppelin the airship called Hindenburg, epitomized what was a man-made disaster. So they named the company because they are saying we want to expose man-made disasters. And they have several companies, more than 12 of them, which they have what are called shorted. मैं थोड़ा सरल भाषा में आप लोगों को समझा ये short seller का चक्कर क्या है? Very simply, oversimplify. You have shares worth 80 at today's price, but you are telling the man you are selling to, I have 100. Because you know that tomorrow 100 will come down to, not just 80, will come down to 60. So actually, you will gain. This is what the stock markets across the world are all about. You know, ek tarah se it's a juari ka adda. You gamble, and sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. So they work. All I can tell you, I don't know how many billions of dollars or millions of dollars Hindenburg Research made. They didn't give me anything, they didn't give Ravi anything, that's all. People came and asked us about information, which I didn't think, I did not know who Hindenburg. Now I think back, maybe I don't know who these people are. But the interesting part of the story is like this. A report comes, it's 32,000 words, and next day the markets collapse. If people like me have been writing for 7 years, who gives a damn? I lost my job in the Economic and Political Weekly, I'll tell you more about it. But that's another story altogether. But this is exactly what happened. And then what happened, that was the day his follow-on public offer of shares was to open. And the share issue flopped. One part was already subscribed to by anchor investors. The public response was lukewarm. And then on the day the share issue concluded, you got the news or the statement from Adani Enterprises Limited, that our share issue has been fully subscribed, 20,000 crore rupees, biggest ever in India. Now, according to Mr. Jairam Ramesh, who is the Congress Party spokesperson, he said a union minister called up some important people, very rich people, and told them, please subscribe. Who are these people? Barabhai Ambani, Hindujaz, Sunil Bharti Mittal of Airtel, Sajan Jindal of Jindal Steel Works, the Gujarati pharmaceutical bigwigs, Shangvi family of Sun Pharma, Torrent, the power people from Gujarat, there were another one, Zydus Cadila, several people, about 7 or 8 of them. Now here's the story. How do you know they invested? Because it was all over. The share issue was still on. You know who has invested only after the share issue gets over. In this case, the share issue is on, but you knew about these names and nobody ever disputed it. Now comes the interesting part of the story. The next day, the 1st of February, is the presentation of the budget. The markets, by and large, they go up because the stock markets are by and large upbeat and bullish about the budget. But so one group's shares come down and brings down the other indices with it, and that's the Adani group. And then at 10:40 at night comes the statement, I withdraw the money. I will, exact words, I am morally obliged to return the money, and he returns the money. Now, I cannot think. He says there's been volatility in the stock markets, therefore I'm returning the money. Once again, I rack my brains and I can't think of any other occasion when something like this has happened. It's 5 to 8. There are several things I can say. All I can say that what has been alleged in the Hindenburg report, what is it? That you are purchasing something, say power equipment or coal, and then you essentially do what is called over-invoicing. If you buy it at 100, you are showing it in India at 120. And what happens after that? This money, where does it go? It goes from here to there, and they, what are called round tripping across tax havens. I have a book on the subject. And this money is laundered. Kala dhan safed ho jata hai. And then it gets recycled into India. These are the allegations not made by me. It is the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, which is the intelligence wing of the Customs Department of the Ministry of Finance, the Revenue Department of the Ministry of Finance. They have made these allegations. Series of show cause notices. These are long, detailed show cause notices. I myself, in my own website, paranjoy.in, I put out these documents, not today, 5 years ago. It's all there. And Hindenburg is saying this is what the allegations are. Then they do, Hindenburg may have borrowed a lot of information from reports that Rafi, me, others have published, but they also did a lot of their own work. They found out what are called related party transactions. If you have a transaction with your brother and you have a public company, you are supposed to disclose it. That's what the rules of the Securities and Exchange Board of India say, but they did not. Then you have what are called FPIs or foreign portfolio investors. They are not supposed to hold beyond, if you are an investor, you cannot have all your investments or 95% of your investments in one particular group, including an entity in which the former Prime Minister of Britain, Boris Johnson's brother, was also a director. बड़े रोचक कहानी है, एक नहीं बहुत सारे रोचक कहानी है और आज भी आ रहे हैं. Ravi and I, we wrote a story about one of Mr. Gautam Adani's close associates, who is a Chinese national. His name is Chang Chung Ling, and he has his sons have a ship, and that ship was sanctioned by the United Nations Security Council for violating the United Nations sanctions and trading oil with North Korea. So there are many, many stories that are there, many, many stories that will be told, many, many stories that are being told. I just want to conclude, and I'm not going to take more than 5 minutes about myself, okay? Please excuse me. In June of 2017, I wrote an article that was published in the Economic and Political Weekly. I was the editor of that publication at that point of time. What was the article? It was about how the rules concerning power projects in special economic zones had been changed, and the biggest beneficiary was Adani Power. Then there was a second part to the article when I said that, look, how is it that the government of India, the Ministry of Finance, the Department of Commerce is processing an application for refund of customs duties worth 500 crore without first checking whether this money had been paid. No, you pay more money to the income tax department, so you make a refund application, and if the income tax department agrees with your refund application, they give you back the money. But you first have to pay the money and then you get a refund. So the question that I ask is, how is it that the Ministry of Finance and the Department of Commerce was processing an application for refund? Please read the article. It was republished by The Wire. I was summoned to Delhi by the Honorable Trustees of the Samiksha Trust to Delhi. I was told, you have committed an act of grave impropriety. What was that act of grave impropriety? I had replied to a legal notice served by the lawyers representing Adani Power without taking the prior permission of the publisher. Now these legal notices come editor, printer, publisher, co-author, everybody. So I made this big mistake. I said, yes, I made a mistake. आपका अनुमति न लेके मैंने एक वकील का, I engaged the services of a lawyer pro bono and I responded. Said, this is an act of grave impropriety. I said, it's a technical error. I'll apologize to you for it. They said, you can't write anymore under your name because your predecessors never wrote under their name. They said, we are appointing a co-editor. They said, you have destroyed the ethos of the Economic and Political Weekly, which is an institution which is almost as old as this country. And they finally told me, pull this article down and do not leave this room until this article is pulled down. So the article was pulled down and I said, here you are, have a look, error 404. So okay, article pulled down. So I said, please give me a piece of paper. I wrote my resignation and I said, please accept it immediately. I never imagined what would happen after that. I was overwhelmed by people who supported me. Some of you are here. I was overwhelmed that there were two Nobel laureates, Professor Amartya Sen and Professor Angus Deaton, who came in my support, the former finance minister of Bengal, who has also been one of the persons who delivered the AKG Memorial Lecture. He was among the people who supported me. Professor Noam Chomsky, who I hold in great regard, he also supported me. Anyway, the story goes on. There I was, Manhani ka case. As you know, these are criminal and legal. Civil and criminal. So I went to Mundra, where there's a court. But there was something very unusual that happened. The civil judge said, withdraw. You don't have to withdraw the article. That's why you can still read it in the Wire. And he said, only remove one sentence and one word. Which they did. You can read the judgment of the court. What happened after that? In May of 2019, the elections were over, but the results hadn't been declared. Adani's lawyers withdrew all the cases against everybody except me. And then in January 2021, I got the ultimate love letter of my life. I never even got it. It was a non-bailable warrant of arrest. Bina zamanat ka giriftar ka adesh hamara khilaf aaya. And interestingly, the report was sent to me first by a correspondent of the Press Trust of India on WhatsApp before my lawyer got it. So I had to appear. My dear wife, who's sitting there, she came with me. We went to Mundra, we appeared before the court. Aropi hazir hai? I said, ji haan, Aropi hazir hai. And then after that, I went there again. And interestingly, on the day we appeared in the court in Mundra, that was a day, the portal with which I am associated, NewsClick was visited by the Enforcement Directorate. So I'll quickly wind up. After February, I went again there in March. No news from the court, from the Honorable First Class Judicial Magistrate Mundra, Shri Pradeep B. Soni. No news. No news. What? Good news. Good news is no news. Bad news is good news. As a journalist, we were told. Anyway, the two other cases against me pertain to the gag order. An article which is available for you to read in NewsClick. It is about Justice Arun Kumar Mishra's judgment. He was just about to retire as a judge of the Supreme Court of India, and the article The headline of that article says, Justice Mishra's parting gift is within inverted commas, of 8,000 crore to Adani. So my lips were shut because they said, Aapne Adalat ka maryada kamzor kiya. You have lowered the esteem of the judiciary in the eyes of the public. It was moved by Adani Power. Civil case, criminal case, still pending. Case 1, 2, 3, 4 is over. Case 5 pertained to NewsClick. Prabir Purakasta, who's 75, D. Raghunandan, who's 73, yours truly, 67, my young colleague Abir Das Gupta. We all went to Bara district. You travel halfway from Delhi to Mumbai to Kota, and from there another 120 kilometers. Aropi Hazir hai ji. Bail bond, surety. The 6th case is in cold storage. So these are the cases against me. I have taken much more than I should have, but I just want to tell you something. Many of the projects, the infrastructure projects, airports and other projects, we don't know what's going to happen to them. The Indian economy is not in a good shape. Indian economy is in bad shape, very bad shape. Now, whatever our Vishwaguru would like you to believe, the point is, in 2021 and 2022, for the first time in the history of this country, you've had 14 months, every month, the wholesale price index has gone up by more than 10%, sometimes more than 15%. This is the Bharat Sarkar, Government of India's figures, not mine. It is led by food, fuel and power. This affects the poor? Of course it affects the poor. The poor, it's hurt much more because they have to pay much more for their food and their fuel as a proportion of their total income. And the gap has grown. India is arguably one of the most, if not the most, unequal country in the world. Out of 200 countries on planet Earth, India is right now number 1. We are Vishwagurus in terms of the gap between the rich and the poor. I'm not saying the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. No, I'm saying the gap has widened. You know, the fortunes of India's billionaires have gone up by 10 times over a decade. You know, if you look at the combined wealth of all the billionaires in India, it's more than the annual budget of the government of India. In the 1.5 year of the pandemic, Mr. Mukesh Ambani's notional wealth, notional, not real notional, went up by 90 crore every hour. It's not my estimate. It is Oxfam's estimate. You might not believe them. This is the truth. A worker with a minimum wage and the top executive's earnings, that person will have to work for 900 plus years to reach that level. The government of India is not releasing a lot of data. There are one estimate says an unemployment as its highest in 45 years. The Center for Monitoring Indian Economy has said what? Half the population in the working age group have stopped looking for jobs. Today I read about a journalist who is making dhoklas. Modi ji had suggested that we should pakola talna bahut zaruri ho gaye. Poha. I'm so sorry. I stand corrected. Used to work with ZTV. So this is the Indian economy, and this is the amazing story of the oligarch. The story is not over. The story is going on, and there's much more that can be said, but it's 10 past 8, way past my deadline, and I apologize for more time that I've taken from you, and I thank all of you for listening so patiently to what I had to say. I'll be happy to answer your questions if I can. If you ask me some questions, I may not know the answer. That's all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Liking lecture given by you. But here, two things are, I'm raising 2 points actually. One is, Airport Authority of India has raised more questions when this project was coming, about 5 years back. They raised very strong objection to giving these airports to 7 airports to private sector. But PMO has changed the rules completely without going to the parliament, without telling the public that they are going to change. One question is that. Second is, nowadays we are not seeing democracy in India. It is a mobocracy by RSS and other party. I am very frankly saying, it is a mobocracy in India. Why this man is unnecessarily punished? He is not given permission to talk in the parliament. Where is our opposition party nowadays? Why can't they come together? Why can't they go to the Supreme Court directly? Make cases against the government for not giving the permission to an elected member of parliament to speak about the truth. I want clear answer from your side.
Sir.
Why we, the opposition party, cannot come together and go to the Supreme Court directly, file various cases. Well, let us see the result.
Okay. I cannot speak on behalf of the opposition parties, why they are not coming together. Seriously, sir. This question you should ask the opposition parties. They will be in a better position. Please ask Shri Rahul Gandhi, Shri Arvind Kejriwal, Srimati Mamata Banerjee, Akhilesh Yadav, etc., etc., etc. They will be in a better position to answer your question. But let me give you my views on what you have said. It was not just the Airports Authority of India and the employees' unions of the Airports Authority of India that opposed the manner in which all these the permission to operate these airports was given. There were objections raised by the representative of the Niti Aayog, just over here, erstwhile Planning Commission. Objections were raised by the Department of Economic Affairs in the Ministry of Finance. They were overruled. It's a detailed article that Ravi Nair and I have written. Please go through it. It's in NewsClick. We have given point by point under what circumstances GVK Group sold its stake to the Adani Group. And you can also, I can tell you more about why this happened. The CBI, the Special Serious Fraud Investigation Office, there were whistleblowers involved, there were several income tax department, the enforcement directorate were involved, and it's a long story, but it's worth pursuing because the story is going on. Ravi, you wanted to say something.
When the first round of privatization of airports happened, the 6 airports, the order came from the PMO. PMO mooted the idea. So we know what happened. So nobody had the guts to oppose that. Even the airport employees union opposed it. Certain departments of certain ministries opposed it, but everything was overruled.
Why was Twitter and YouTube, why did they ban these documentaries using emergency provisions? After they banned it, my question is, was it not a foolish move? Go back to Adam and Eve and the forbidden fruit. Do you think fewer people would have watched these documentaries if they had not been banned? I would say the reverse happened. More people watched this documentary. In today's day and age of the internet, how long can you stop it? So the point is, the Ministry of External Affairs can say this is very bad, this is an old article. Mr. Jaishankar can say that, why hasn't BBC made a film on the anti-Sikh riots in Delhi in 1984, whereas the BBC actually did 20 years later. They can say anything they like. They can say it displays a colonial mindset, etc., etc., etc. But the point is, once you ban it, more people watch it. Simple. And you go, why did the income tax department conduct a quote-unquote survey in the offices of the BBC in Delhi and in Mumbai? Another question. You talked about Rahul Gandhi, the Member of Parliament from Wayanad in Kerala. 18 places, the Honourable Speaker of the Lok Sabha have removed his statements from the records of the Lok Sabha. The question is, everything is on YouTube. It was shown broadcast live and it is even today available on YouTube. Is it that you want more people to watch it? Two more points, sir. Pawan Khera, spokesperson of the Congress Party, he does a terrible thing. He mispronounces the name of our Honorable Prime Minister, says it's Narendra Gautam Das Adani, and FIRs are lodged against him in Assam. The police of Assam come to the airport in Delhi. He's brought down from the aircraft before he can go to Raipur in Chhattisgarh. And then the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, intervenes. Last example, sir. Shah Rukh Khan. They put his son behind bars. They couldn't find even one pudiya of ganja. You can walk the streets of Bombay, many pudiyas of ganja, among other things. They let him off. We know that Shah Rukh Khan is rich, he's popular, we know his wife is a Hindu. What happened to Pathan? What happened to Pathan, sir? You don't need to go to see it for Shah Rukh Khan, you can go to watch it for Deepika. But it's a super hit. More than 1,000 crore in box office. So the question I'm asking, this mobocracy that you're talking about, are the leaders of the mob, why are they doing all this? I leave that question open, sir.
It's an extension of questions that I have asked Paranjoy in the recent past in an online interview, and of course in continuation of the conversation that the talk that you gave. I think one aspect that needs to be looked at more closely when we look at this topic of crony capitalism and the fall of the economy and democracy is the manner in which judiciary is getting compromised, and it has happened even in this case. In fact, the committee formed by the Supreme Court to look into this seems to have given a carte blanche to SEBI, which of course is primarily in the dock for not acting against Adani, in spite of so many complaints against them. So, Paranjoy, I would like to have your views on this Supreme Court committee and what you expect from that.
Sir, I have no expectations. Let me just tell you two things. It is not just what that other journalists and media organizations against whom the Adani Group has filed defamation cases. One of them was CNBC Television 18, where there was a program which is asking SEBI the questions. If a clutch of foreign portfolio investors are so heavily invested in one corporate conglomerate, is this not violating the rules of SEBI? Will this lead to what they call fair price discovery? After that, Ravi Nair did a detailed dive on a whole list of these foreign portfolio investors. Now everybody knows their names. At that time, nobody knew it. Long back, more than 1.5 years ago. The Member of Parliament, Ms. Mahua Moitra, wrote to SEBI. She's after all, Lok Sabha MP. You don't like her face, you like her face, that's your problem. But anyway, she's asking, what are you doing, SEBI? Why are you sitting on it for so long? Now, this is a question only SEBI can answer. Mr. Amit Shah recently made a comment at the India Today conclave where he says, people can go and depose. But to the best of my knowledge and understanding, I do not know if this committee will invite depositions from others. I don't know. It's a question mark. So, I don't know.
But the long and short of it is that the
You're welcome to interpret the facts in that manner. I do not know. Honestly, I do not know. Maybe somebody knows, but I don't know who that somebody is. Maybe a few people know. I'm reminded of my son when he was 10 years old and a chota bacha, he came to me and he said, I learned this in school. Nobody knows how the elephant blows his nose. Does he do a tissue on a tissue or simply wipe it on his toes? Nobody knows. I'm sorry, I'm being facetious, but honestly, I wish I could give you an answer to the question. I don't know.
You mentioned in your speech for the very first time LIC answered to the allegations made to it. So what's wrong if allegations are made to the public sector undertakings? For example, like LIC and SBI have answered to the allegations. So what's wrong in that if they are answering to the allegation made?
Nothing at all. Whose money is LIC's money? Whose money is State Bank of India? It's the largest bank in India. It is money that belongs to the people of this country. The question is not, see, in Australia, when Shri Narendra Modi had gone for the G20 summit to Canberra, there was Arundhati Bhattacharya, who was the then chairperson of the State Bank of India, and Shri Gautam Adani. And there was a proposal that the State Bank would, for the first time, invest $1 billion in that Carmichael mine. That never happened. That never happened because the State Bank of India's internal board and the committees did not approve it. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong. The question is, when the State Bank of India, its mutual funds, when the Life Insurance Corporation, they invest money in the stocks of a particular group, and then the value of those stocks come down, then the value of your money and my money is also coming down. That's all.
Lot of details, much more than what I thought I knew. So, one question is, since you have all this data in the detail of it can be, how long can it go? Where are we?
Very good question. Excellent question. I have no idea. I really don't know. I'm not a Jyotishi. I'm not a fortune teller. I try and understand facts, but I wish I could answer.
But can we do anything as social collectives, as people? That's all.
Nobody's stopping you. Go ahead. Do exactly what you think must be done, should be done. Because I talked about Notbandi, I talked about land acquisition laws, I talked about CA, NRC, farm laws. But the question is today, this is a different kind of a crisis. Is this the biggest crisis so far that Mr. Modi's government is facing? I don't know. Again, I don't know. Your guess could be as good as mine. It's more than 1 year for the next general elections. Who knows what can happen between now and then? Will there be a war with China? I don't know. Who thought that Pulwama and Balakot would happen? And what influence it would have on the 2019 general elections? At least I did not anticipate it. So it's difficult to predict the future, and I don't even want to try it. Commodore Lokesh Batra.
The last point you raised was financial status of this country. And it came out in court 2 days ago when there was a case going on, one rank, one pension. The AG came out with a sealed cover, and the CGI said, we don't accept the sealed cover, and you read out something which came out, the light reporting was coming up.
Yeah.
One of the quote was, Attorney General tells SC that country is facing huge financial issue. Every state is sitting on huge financial debt, and this is the reason we can't pay it. So I wrote it under this. But we are running 5 trillion economy. I just made my own remark, and this is coming from as the case was going on. It was coming live, and this was one come. This was to be given in sealed cover. Now, on the other side, you already mentioned about the STGR. Was this deal between State Bank and the government or MOU signed in Australia or back home?
It was an MOU that was signed. I do not know where it was signed. So honestly, I don't know.
No, I have
All
the
I
idea
know,
by chance
all I
have
know,
the
sir.
idea of that period.
Yeah, you are the RTI. You're the
Nothing to do with this.
you're the activist. You use the right to information law. The amount of information that thanks to you, you have exposed on electoral bonds, on PM cares. I take my hat off to you, sir. But I really don't know, sir. What happened within the SBI?
No, what I know is that I did file RTI. I wanted to take out the expenditure detail of Prime Minister in 2015. And it happened, it was in that period. Now I look back my RTI results. Officially, one aircraft went, that is the Air India. Unofficially, when RTI came out, even Air Force plane went. Air India went via Myanmar, and then the detailed expenditure over there, I got it. Now they don't give it. There was a state guest who was paid ticket. I wonder who was the state guest.
Very good questions you are raising, sir.
I have that RTI reply. I went through now, 2015.
Sir,
the period was same.
So I can give you some facts. There have been several occasions when in the entourage that Mr. Narendra Modi, when he has travelled to different countries, Mr. Gautam Adani was member of that group. Ravi, how many times?
We were at least 9.
At least 9 occasions. So, I mean, these are facts.
That's what it came out by chance, when I looked at now. And the other thing, you gave an example of PMO mentioning directly.
On the airport privatization.
Now I'm talking a similar case in the electoral bond case. The notification says 4 times in a year, for 10 days, electoral bonds will be sold. Except for general election, Lok Sabha election, 30 more days will be given. And our finance ministry, then finance minister, gave 35 days. Supreme Court cut down those 5 days. But came May, it was supposed to be in January, it was supposed to be in April, July and October. January was not done because the notification came in January. So they said, let's have in lieu. I call it illegal. You can't have it in lieu some other one. But when came Karnataka election, May, file says, I have all those files, says very categorically, staff says, sir, we cannot open state election, it is not in notification, he puts up to secretary. Secretary said no. 3 days later, a note on the file, PMO desired this to be opened up. And all the state election, it was opened up against the notification. So when you mention this is the file writing with us. And there is a story done on HuffPost on this.
Sir, I have nothing to add to the seminal work that you've done in digging up this information. And I do support the decision by Chief Justice of India, Shri Chandrachud, saying he doesn't want to continue with this whole sealed envelope business. You know what happened in the case of various cases, including the Rafael deal. Yes, I'm sorry I'm plugging it. You can read our book, Ravi and Michael.
105 6 envelopes are lying from election commission or electoral bond. So yesterday I was...
See, he's the person you should ask him. He was... Okay, sir. Are there any other questions? Okay, shall this be the last question because it's 8:30? It's up to you, the organizers. Yes, please.
Sir, my name is Daniel Zokumsana. I'm a student of St. Stephen's College, student of BF.
I also studied in the same college. What is your name, young man?
Daniel Zokumsana.
Daniel?
I come from Mizoram. Yes, sir.
Okay, Daniel from Mizoram.
Yes, sir. My question is, sir, with the topic crony capitalism, the adoption of neoliberalism in our country and the widening of inequality among the rich and the poor, and the rise in ethnic and religious fundamentalism. How do you see the correlation between these 3 things? And my second question is, what do you think is the relevance of Marx in our current political scenario?
I've been a journalist for 45 years. I try and dig up facts. I can't say I'm a scholar. The relevance of Marxism in today's world, how do you connect the ethno-religious tensions and more than tensions, violence, how you link it with the economy and the politics. I think there are links. Definitely there are links. But honestly, Daniel, I'm not competent to answer these questions. I don't know enough to answer these questions. You know, I mean, these are important questions, and I'm sure there are others who are far better informed and knowledgeable than me to comment on this. Thank you in any way for asking these questions. Your name, sir?
My name is Shri Paranjoy. My name is Shri Paranjoy. I am working with the steel company. And these are, actually this is not a question, but these are some doubts which I read somewhere. Just wanted to share in case if you could to throw some light on it. The one thing, when the other day I was hearing the Adani's interview, somebody asked Rajiv Satyasai, he said, who is the favorite politician of you? He said it is Sharad Pawar. Who is the next one? It is Mr. No, this is Miss Mamta Banerjee. And the third one, Ashok Gehlot. And the fourth one, that is Pinarayi Vijayan. So that is what he said. So from I could able to understand he is a man of all seasons, no doubt about it. And my question is something like that. You mentioned, that's very nice to see, hear that you mentioned about the coal and being a steel professional, I know that another coal that is going to be, not to be used by 2025. That is the normal, the assessment about the coal, because the carbon emission and everything that is going on all over the world, and India's commitment towards the carbon emission by 2040, that is the year India committed. And where I read an article about Adani, right? So he is somebody, pro-Adani person. He is saying that, in the Paris commitment, India raised a point that by 2040, India is going to be the net carbon emission country where we are not going to use the coal. Instead of the coal, we are going to use hydrogen. Why the hydrogen is going to be the source of all the energy, whether it is in the power making or the steel making and everything. So the Modi government and the bureaucrats asked the Indian, and I called an Indian diaspora, and they requested that.
I'll give you my reactions to what you've asked me. Mr. Adani, like all good businessmen, his connections are across political parties. You mentioned Mr. Sharad Pawar, Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan, Ashok Gehlot. You did not mention Mr. Kamal Nath. You did not mention Shri Bhupesh Baghel. You mentioned Mamta Banerjee, of course. Mr. Shrikant, on this issue of hydrogen, there was a proposal that the French company Total Energy was supposed to invest very heavily in the Adani's hydrogen project. And from what they have themselves said, this investment has been put on hold. It's official, not my views. It's been put out as a formal statement. The other questions, sir, I think you should ask these questions to Mr. Gautam Adani. He will be better placed than I to answer. I had the honor and the privilege of meeting Mr. Gautam Adani on 2 occasions. Once in May 2017 and once in February 2021. My wife was present on that occasion. The first time I sought that meeting, it lasted it was about 1 hour. It was in Mumbai. But his man had sworn me that this meeting is being organized on the condition that it's off the record. So I did not secretly record it. I took a few notes. On the second occasion, it was organized by my lawyer, my advocate, in the hope that it would be some out-of-court settlement could be worked out. Again, my lawyer said that it's off the record. It is, you are being sworn to secrecy. So that is the reason why I cannot tell you what happened in the 1 hour and 55 minutes that I spent with Shri Gautam Adani at his headquarters in a place called Shantigram between Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar. On a third occasion, I had a long conversation with him on the telephone, about 15 minutes. I urged him to withdraw the cases, but he did not commit himself to that. But if you get an opportunity to meet him, you must ask him these questions.
I thank all of you, and on behalf of Jan Samskriti, we express our gratitude and thanks to the speaker and the audience for tonight. Thank you.